Hi. Welcome to the Human Design for Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Yvette Mayer, and this show's for you if you're done with cookie cutter marketing and ready to build your personal brand in alignment with who you really are. Let's dive in. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to make sure that you are registered for next week, or is it this week's, Influence Activation Masterclass. This is a deep dive into understanding how to turn your essence into more influence. We're working with the human design profile lines. It's a 90-minute class. Not only will there be an opportunity for hot seat coaching, but there is over $1,000 in prizes up for grabs for joining us live. I hope to see you there. Hello and welcome back to the Human Design for Marketing podcast. I am very happy to be here, as I always am. I appreciate you so much for tuning in. Today's episode is going to be a new format. I am going to be sharing a case study of one of my long-time private clients. Her name is Tricia Camacho, and I think I'm going to be doing this more frequently because it will really give you an understanding of how human design has transformed the marketing of my clients and how it can do the same for you. Now, Tricia is an extra special client of mine. She's been on the podcast before. And in fact, even since the shift into the new name of the Human Design for Marketing podcast, we have had an episode where she featured very heavily, which I will link you to in the show notes. Now, the thing about Tricia that is unique is that her and my history of working together goes back to over 3.5 years ago. She has consecutively joined my private and group programs since July 2020. True story. Now, when Tricia came to me, we were in the middle of COVID. She was or is a pattern-making costume creative, and her history has been in building out costumes, so the patterns and the actual creation of costumes for Broadway level shows. She's based in the US. Well, she is from the US. She lives in North Carolina, but she's spent a lot of time in Vegas. That's where a lot of her shows were hitting the stage, but she's supported productions all over the world. Now, of course, during COVID, all of that work disappeared overnight. And she was left without an income, and she actually had to go on benefits to even survive week to week. But at the same time, she had already been teaching others how to create their own patterns. And she developed a course, but she didn't have the marketing skills to take that course and turn it into a flourishing income stream. So when we first connected, which was through Instagram, she came to me with a goal of turning her course into a business and not having the skills or the knowledge or the background in how to make that happen. Now, I was 3 months into focusing purely on business coaching, and I recall feeling incredibly nervous that she was trusting me with some of her life savings to help her make this happen. Now, the hugeness of this relationship is worth shouting out. Tricia today has a multiple 6-figure business and is working towards a 7-figure business. And that has happened in 3.5 short years. She's already invested in another 12 months with me where we're contracted and paid in full up to the end of 2024, at which point we'll have been working together for 4.5 years. So this episode, I think, is something or has something in there for you around the value of long-term mentorship, as well as how Tricia's marketing has evolved the more we've applied her human design to the way she grows and builds her business. It's a very exciting case study. It is something I'm incredibly proud of. The relationship with Tricia and I is next level awesome. Last year, I included in her year-long package that I would meet her in Montauk, which is one of my favorite places in the Hamptons, outside of New York City. This was a dream come true for me, something that I imagined when I had my own business that I would be able to do, like running a retreat in the Hamptons in my favorite place. So that was pretty special. And we actually, on that trip, did a lot of work around her pearl sequence. I took her through that on retreat, which was I've said next level twice, which was awesome. But today I'm going to go back a bit. I'll tell you a bit about the trajectory of her business and give you behind the scenes of some of the decisions that have been made based on her human design and the gene keys over these last few years. So in terms of my support of Tricia around human design, I first started bringing this to her in 2021. I did a really deep dive into her human design that year. But my experience with human design obviously has deepened and changed and expanded over those years together as well. And with every step that I've taken Tricia on the journey with me. She has been a participant in the Frequency Project, and that experience was game-changing for her as well. So let's go back to the beginning. So she came to me with a course that was on her website. She had an Instagram account and she joined a membership to help her grow her presence on Instagram. She is incredibly magnetic. She honestly works super hard. Let's talk about her profile. She is a manifestor, a classic manifestor, splenic authority. She is a 1-4 profile. She's the right angle cross of tension, which means that she has the 48 in her personality sun, and she has the 28 in her personality Mercury. So very, very powerful chart, lots of definition. She has things like the money channel, like it's all going on. So working with her energy is, something to behold. And she is so aligned to her profile. Even before she received this wisdom, she already was. Okay, so she was very active on Instagram and had a course sitting on her website that she'd built out, but wasn't getting any sales, or at most maybe one sale per month, and it was priced at a couple of $100. So in working together, the first thing we did was do a closing down sale of that course on her website and announced that it would be disappearing at this price and on demand, which it had been being sold as, and moving to a live model where she'd be running it in launches and there for Q&As every week along the way. Just this first step of removing the course at that price drove an influx of inquiries and they converted. So she already had a spike in income within a month of us working together. Then we went on to launch her course and do this live launch model. I'm not going to take you through every step of the business, but after that, moving to the live launch model, she started to gather real momentum. So every launch after the first launch brought in more and more humans and bigger income. Meantime, she was showing up in her Manifestor strong, powerful energy, building a solid community on Instagram. Now, I will say that Tricia, as a pattern-making teacher, has a very defined niche. Not only that, she is a line 1. So she has done all of the research, all of the learning. She has developed her own IP. She has her own methodologies that makes pattern making simple. So her long-term vision, and it's being realized, that she is held up on the global stage as the leading pattern making teacher in the world. And honestly, she really is on this path. She's going there. So from the beginning, she has been super able to build community, and she has a line 4. So she's the 1-4. And the other thing that she does exceptionally well is network with other people that are passionate about pattern making and convert a lot of those conversations into either collaborations or people joining her community along the way. So after, I want to say, a year, the next move was to in the beginning, it was to start a membership that was only accessible to people who had done the course. And she got a lot of traction quickly. So people that were finishing her course never wanted it to end. They always wanted more of her. And so she was able to launch beta pricing at the beginning and bring from I want to say there was like somewhere between 10 and 20 people immediately out the gate that joined, which is a phenomenal start off just a few course launches when she was limiting it to this small group of people who'd already done the course. Over time, it was apparent that for Tricia's energy as a manifestor, it would be better to have less launches and convert to a more evergreen model of support. And so at this point, the direction that we took, or Tricia took, and had a lot of guidance from me along the way, was to stop selling the course on its own, include the course in the membership, and increase the price significantly because you were getting the course in there as well. Now, of course, if you join the membership from the beginning, you have access for the entirety at your beta pricing, and then you'd already done the course. So that worked out beautifully. So for the last couple of years, Tricia has had her incredible membership that has grown to hundreds of humans. I want to say it's just under 200, so close to hundreds. Now, that on its own is incredible. The other thing that happened is once COVID was over, she was able to recommence her costume work, only with her growing profile as something of an influencer in this space. We decided that she would actually employ stitchers, pattern makers, to support her in the costume creation side of her business. So these days she has a business unit, the pattern seamstress, with a team who are creating those costumes for the Broadway shows. Then this is super fun. So we're working with her human design, and the fact that collaboration is a huge part of her with a prominent line 4. And at this point, she is starting to look outside of her own influence at the sewing industry and how much bigger the leaders of this industry were. And there was a woman in particular whose name, if you're in the sewing world, you might know, is Mimi G. She is a global star in the sewing world. She has a program called the Sew It Academy with something like 30,000 members. So yeah, she's next level, huge, huge. And Tricia and I spoke about, well, is she a competitor or is she an expander? Side note, I do want to credit Lacey Phillips from To Be Magnetic, because I think she coined the phrase expander. Check out To Be Magnetic on Instagram or the podcast if you want to know more about that. But an expander is somebody who is, well, maybe someone you see a bit of yourself in that is also further along than you. And it allows you to see them as a demonstration of what is possible for you rather than as a I'm less than them, or they have something that I don't, or triggered because they make it look so easy. So having done this work together, she identified that she wanted to, step into the energy of seeing Mimi G as somebody that longer term, she saw the potential in herself in becoming in the pattern world. So she started to really engage with Mimi, like be very visible on Mimi's social media. This led to the most incredible opportunity in that Mimi and her became, in the beginning, it was just visible to each other, or she became very visible to Mimi. It then unfolded into Mimi approaching Tricia to open a side membership to the Sew It Academy focused on pattern making. Today, Tricia has 2 memberships. She has one on her own, and she has one in collaboration with Mimi G. This opened the door to huge audience growth because Mimi has, well, oh gosh, I don't know the number, forgive me, but it's like hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. I'm, maybe exaggerating, but it's, huge audience. And in this collaboration, they're very different memberships. One is a lower ticket, which is the one that she does in collaboration with Mimi. Lower ticket, less content, no access to Tricia Live. Tricia's membership, which is the higher ticket, is the opposite. You get Tricia Live a lot more often. It is a real community. It is a true live membership with a strong community element. Okay, so quite a different set. Some people join both though. Over time, this has developed into a community of hundreds and hundreds of paying clients in this collaborative membership. So today, Tricia really has three arms to her business. She has her own thriving membership business. She has a collaboration with Mimi G, and she has her pattern making seamstress business as well. So where does human design fit into this? Well, as a manifestor, Tricia is a true leader. She is setting the agenda in the pattern making world, and she's really driving the agenda. And knowing that she's a manifestor has given her a lot of permission to step into this powerful leadership energy and not shy away from her bigness. So that's the first thing. Secondly, she is aware and practicing the fact that her strategy is to inform. So a beautiful example of this is she came up with this huge vision for creating PatternCon. So Comic-Con, the pattern making version of Comic-Con, because she is really on a mission to make pattern making more accessible, fun, and a whole vibe of its own. And working together, she started to understand that the best way for her to meet the least resistance is to start to inform people in her community and in her audience when she has these big ideas, and get people on board to help her realize this vision. This is such a manifestor strategy. This has just knocked it out of the park instantly. Everybody that hears about it wants in. So she's now building a committee to make PatternCon real rather than going it alone, right? Manifestor energy. Then the next thing I would share is that she is splenic authority, and she has a hugely intuitive side to her. And she's really started to connect into that intuition more so in making decisions. And in fact, last year, her word of the year was intuition, because she wanted to connect into this more regularly as she made every decision in her business, in her marketing, and in her life as well. Her profile lines. She is a 1-4, as I've shared. Now, this means that she has a lot of influence because the 4 is this friendly, enigmatic energy that brings people in without even trying. This has been huge for her. So both in terms of appreciating that she is an authority, she is not schooled in she's not technically trained. She is self-taught and has built her own knowledge base through reading and self-education, right? Very line 1. She knows her craft inside and out. She is one of the best pattern makers in the world. I have absolute confidence in that. So starting to connect the dots and owning her authority in this space has been huge for her and her line 1, and has her teaching her own techniques and developing her own language around pattern making that did not exist. This is a huge part of how she approaches her marketing, is sharing her wisdom. She's all about making pattern making simple, and this is what she teaches. Then the line 4 is this: okay, so I'm going to do better when I am in social mode, when I'm networking. So this year, one of our major strategies with Tricia is to go to events. Twofold. to connect with other people that are as passionate as she is in the pattern making world to help build out the committee and the community of PatternCon, but also because pattern making is less mainstream. But going into these environments where there are sewing enthusiasts who may be a little bit afraid of pattern making is the perfect space for her to be building out interest and connecting with what are really kind of cold audiences for her, but being in person there is like this hugely powerful way for her to gather momentum and bring more people, not just into her world, but into the pattern making world. So she's doing 3 live convention conferences as a teacher this year. Her line 4. Her profile being the right angle cross of tension. Well, part of her purpose is to really wake up the community of sewing enthusiasts to the fact that pattern making can be simple and fun. But if we get deeper into her 48, now the 48 is like the fountain of knowledge, very aligned to her line 1. She is an absolute fountain of knowledge. And so leaning into this as part of her brand story is all the credibility that comes through in the high-end costume making creation field. Like, you can't do this work without being an exceptional pattern maker. And for those of you who are listening and are like, I don't really know what that is, imagine a costume designer for a Broadway event sketches out, this is how I'm seeing this costume. They don't know how to technically build that costume out. They then work with somebody like Tricia, who is a costume pattern making expert, who is able to create the pattern to fit the particular actress or actor that is showing up. And then they're on the team for the entire time, making adjustments and doing the costumes for all of the stars of the show. I think of it a little bit like a architect versus an engineer, right? So there's so many parallels actually in this. It's like the difference between a strategy and a plan, right? The big vision is like the design, and the pattern making is the technical, like how are we going to do this? I've gone off on a tangent on that, but depth of knowledge. And I feel like I now have quite a depth of knowledge because of working with Tricia. My line 1 is like, oh, I get this. And then she also has the 28. Now, this is part of her messaging, right? This is her soul's mission. Now, the 28 is, I frame it up as no risk, no reward. And this is true of how she teaches pattern making. It's like, if you don't try, if you don't give this a go, you'll never know how much freedom there is in creating clothing that fits you perfectly. You'll never have the joy of both being able to fit and create your own patterns. That means that you are an original in the way you express in the clothing that you wear. Okay, so this give it a go, you're going to make mistakes, this is how you learn, is a very big part of how she expresses herself in her marketing as well. So I hope you've gotten a really good understanding of one woman's case study. There is a lot more behind the scenes. And of course, this is just part of what has helped Tricia step into next level success in her business and in her marketing. Fun fact, this year, Tricia's word of the year is authenticity. So honestly, like I said, her word last year was intuition. Her word this year is authenticity. This is a woman who is very open to spirituality. She is extremely well self-led. She takes care of her energy. She operates on a high frequency. She now gets these elements that are inside of her and how she works with those to continue her trajectory of growth. And I couldn't be more proud of her and the work that she's done in the last few years, and also inspired by her. She's honestly, she's a bright, shining light in the world. She gets so much joy from helping others, and she's the kind of person who sends me messages that are like shares from her community saying that being part of her membership is life-changing, that it fills them with joy, it makes them more purposeful, and so it has this beautiful ripple effect. And this is what I aspire to as well. It's like creating more of a ripple effect by helping you help your people, and then seeing how that filters out into the world. Nothing makes me happier. And I'm sure you're the same, right? When you really think about just the fact that you help one person, there's always an exhaustive list of people behind that one person who are having this ripple effect of your work as well. And so, in summary, this is just such a fabulous example of the power of human design for marketing and the work that we are doing here in this world of human design and marketing together. As I said, make sure you get yourself signed up for the Influence Activation Masterclass next week. Shortly on the heels of that, the Frequency Project, my signature human design for marketing group, course and live program will be open, and we would love to welcome you inside. And that's where you're going to go really deep and access those parts of you that will help you turn your essence into more income, that will help you turn your essence into more influence, more impact, and more income. I'll see you soon. There are heaps more resources in the show notes. I can't wait to be back in your ears again soon. Bye for now.